Hi and welcome back. So, have I got a treat for you today? Today we're going to go through 5 questions on algebra that's going to make you an expert and make sure you get the best marks in this test. So let's see how many of these you could do. Okay, the first one, simultaneous equation. So suppose you have a question like this and the question asks you to solve by substitution. So they give you the first equation, which is 2x plus y equals 9. Let's label that equation 1. And then they also give you the second equation, which is y equals x plus 3. And let's label that 2. So there's 3 ways we could solve a simultaneous equation: substitution, elimination, or graphing. It's told you it wants you to use substitution. So in substitution, you either make x or y the subject of one of the equations and then substitute it back into the other equation. So in this one, it's nice and easy actually. It's actually already got x or y as the subject. So if you look at equation 2, it already tells you y equals to x plus 3, which is great. So all that means is wherever you see y in the first expression, which is over here, you're going to substitute this in because that's what y basically is. Okay, so y equals x plus 3. So instead of writing y, we're going to substitute that in. So my first equation, let's rewrite it. It is 2x plus, and it says plus y, but instead of y, we could write x plus 3. And we're told that this equals to 9. Okay, the fun begins here because we collect like terms. So you've got 2x plus x, which basically means 2x plus 1x, which is 3x. So you have 3x plus 3 equals to 9. And now let's rearrange this so to make x the subject. So we want to get rid of this plus 3. We're bringing it across the equal sign. Whenever something goes across the equal sign, it becomes opposite the symbol, or we're subtracting 3 from both sides. It's pretty much the same thing, whichever way you want to think of it. So on the left hand side, you would have 3x. On the right hand side, you have 9, subtract 3, which is 6. And then your final step is we just want to get rid of this 3. So what are we going to do? Again, you could think of it as bringing it to the other side. It is a times on the left hand side, so when you bring it across, it becomes a divide. So x is 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So my first solution is x equals to 2. Most students leave it there, but remember, you need to work out what y is as well, because we need to know what both x and y is. So because you've watched this video, you're not going to make that mistake. You're going to substitute that back into, you could sub it into either equation, but we might as well sub it into equation 2 because it's already in the form of y equals x plus something. So let's sub it into equation 2. So y equals x plus 3, and we know x is 2, so it's 2 plus 3, which is 5. Beautiful. So they are my 2 answers, and because it's xy, we can actually write it as a coordinate. So for the first one, your answer should have been 2, 5. So well done if you got that correct. If not, hopefully this made sense. If you have any questions, make sure you put it on the comment section. But hopefully you're feeling good. And feel free to watch this a few times. Sometimes it takes a bit of time just to watch these videos, just to absorb the information. And also make sure you try them at the same time as well. Maths is about doing, not just watching. Even though it's very fun to just watch these, and I'm glad you're watching these, make sure you're doing them at the same time. Okay, question 2. Another simultaneous equation, but this time I want you to solve by elimination. So we're given two equations. Again, let's label them. So that's equation 1, which is 3x plus 2y equals to 8. And then my second equation is 5x minus 2y equals to 8 as well. So what we're going to do in elimination is we're either going to eliminate the x's or the y's. And because the y's have the same numerical answer, different signs, and we're going to deal with that in a second, but the same value, they both have 2, it's going to be easier to eliminate that. We could eliminate their x's, but we would need to make these the same. And the lowest common multiple of this would be 15. So we can make these 15, but it's probably easier just to work with the y's. So let's do that. So then you're going to ask yourself, how would I eliminate the y's? So we've got 2 and then -2. So if you add these two, that eliminates them, right? Because if you have 2y plus -2y, that's basically 2y take 2y, which is 0, which eliminates the y. So we're going to add them, because when you add them, it actually simplifies to take, which gives me 0. So it's always a good idea to write what we're doing. Two reasons for this. It shows the examiner you know what you're doing. So even if you get the final answer wrong, you get follow through marks. It also helps your brain try remembering these steps, and it makes logical sense. So try show as much working out as possible. Okay, so let's add them. So if I add 3x plus 5x, you get 7x, 2y plus -2y, which is 0, and 8 plus 8 equals to 16. Okay, we're nearly there. Now what do we need to do? I made a mistake, and hopefully you noticed it. 3x plus 5x is 8x. So it should be 8x equals to 16. And now we want to get rid of this 8, so we're going to bring it to this side. That would mean that x would be 16 divided by 8, which is 2. So my x value is 2. Now what do we need to do? Remember, most people forget to do this, but not you, because you have watched this video. You're going to sub that back into, and in this case, it doesn't matter which one you sub it into. Let's just sub it into 1. You can sub it into equation 2. You would eventually get the same answer. So we're going to sub x equals 2 into the first equation. So let's rewrite my first equation. It is 3x plus 2y equals to 8. And we're going to sub x equals to 2. So 3, and instead of x, I'm going to put 2. And notice I put this in brackets. So whenever you substitute a value, try use brackets. This is particularly important when you have negative values as well, because the brackets really help. So you've got 3 brackets 2 plus 2y equals to 8. 3 brackets 2 just basically means 3 times 2. So you have 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 2y equals to 8. Now what we're going to do is get rid of this 6 by moving it across. It's a positive on the left, so when you move it across, it becomes a negative. So you have 2y equals 8 takes 6, which is 2, and then you're bringing that 2 across. Y would be 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Beautiful, nice and easy. And we could write it in coordinate form. So it should be 2, 1. So hopefully you see the difference between elimination and substitution. Let me know what your favorite is. Would you prefer elimination or substitution? Or do you like both? And well done if you got both of those correct. That is really good work. Okay. Question 3. So, solving and graphing linear inequalities. So suppose you have this inequality. Minus 3x plus 5 is greater than 17. And the question asks you to solve and graph this. Okay, do you want to have a bit of a go and type in your answers in the comment section? And we'll go through it in a second. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you've given this a bit of a go. So these are quite nice and fun to do. And once you get the hang of them, they're pretty easy. So inequalities are just like equal signs. You treat them the same. All you have to remember is when you divide or multiply by a negative value, the inequality flips. That's the only thing you need to remember. Otherwise, you could treat it as an equal sign. So, pretend it's an equal sign and we just solve using algebra, but if you're dividing or multiplying by a negative value, the inequality flips. So if I asked you to solve this, you would say, I need to get rid of that 5 first, so you would bring it to that side. It's a positive on the left, so when you bring it to the right, it becomes take. So you're left with minus 3x is greater than, so the inequality sign doesn't change yet. 17 take 5. And 17 take 5 is 12. So minus 3x is greater than 12. Now we just want to get rid of this -3. So again, you could bring it to the other side. Or basically, you're dividing both sides by -3. That would get rid of that. But remember, when you divide by a negative, the inequality flips. So instead of greater than, it is less than. And 12 divided by -3 is 4. So x is less than -4. And we need to plot this on the number line. So let's say -4 is over here. That would mean -5 is over here. -6 is over here. And -7. That would be -3, -2. -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So x is less than -4. So you put a circle at -4. If it had said x is less than or equal to, you would colour in this circle because it is an inclusive inequality. But remember, in this one, it didn't say it's equal to, it only said it is less than. So it is a hollow circle. Make sure you make that really obvious when you do a question like this, whether the circle is coloured in or hollow, because it's really important. And x is less than -4, so it will go towards the left. So you draw a left, and we draw an arrow going to the left, saying that it is less than -4. In interval notation, you could basically write it goes from -infinity, because basically that's where that is. That will eventually get to -infinity. And then the upper value is -4. And because it doesn't include the -4, we use curly brackets. So that's how we write it in interval notation. So that was nice and easy. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, factorizing a quadratic trinomial. So this is pretty fun. Do you want to have a quick go at doing this and then type in your answers for question 4 in the chat box? And we will go through this in a second. Okay, welcome back. Let's go through this. So what we need to do, what I like to do, is just look at that last value and write out all the multiples of 20. So we have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 doesn't go, 4 and 5, 6 doesn't go, 7 doesn't go, 8 doesn't go, 9 doesn't go, 10 and 2, so they're getting repeated factors, so we stop, so we know they are all the factors of 20. Once you've got all the factors of 20, you look at this middle value, and we want to pick the two factors that can add to give us that. And the only two factors that would give you that are 4 and 5, and then we're going to look at the signs. So they need to add together to give you -9. So you would say that they would both be negative, because -4 plus -5 is -9, And when you multiply two negatives, you need to get positive 20, and you do. -4 multiplied by -5 gives us positive 20. So we know we have our two factors. And then your final step is you write out your two brackets, x and x, and you write out your two factors. And that's how we would factorize our quadratic trinomial. It should just be x minus 4, x minus 5. Well done if you got that correct, or even if you didn't, hopefully it makes sense now and you're feeling good. Okay, last question. Using the quadratic formula, let's see if we could factorize this. Well, this is nice. So remember, any quadratic can be written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, which is what's happened in this case. So we could see straight away a is 2, b is 5, and c is -4. So write out all your values, write out the formula, which is minus b plus or minus square root of b squared, take away 4ac all over 2a. And then all we have to do is plug in our values. So we've got -b, so -5 plus or minus square root of b squared, which is 5 squared, take 4, and notice how I use brackets over here, ac all over 2a. So I'm just using brackets and substituting the values in. Okay, next we're going to work out what that is and what these are, basically. So let's do that. So we still have -5 plus or minus square root of 5 squared is 25. Okay, and let's do this part. So be careful of the signs here, okay? So you got -4 times 2, which is -8, and then -8 times -4, which would be positive 32. Does everyone understand that? Because of the two negatives, you get a positive value. Let me quickly go through that again. So -4 times -2 is -8, and then -8 times -4 is positive 32. So, whoops, that should be that color, positive 32. And on the bottom, 2 times 2, which is 4. And 25 plus my 32 is 57. So you have -5 plus or minus root 57 on 4. And that's as far as we could go. So that is my answer for that. So well done for watching. Hopefully you found that helpful. Let me know out of those 5 questions how many you got correct or how many you feel good about now. I'm hoping this made algebra seem a lot easier and you do really well in your upcoming tests and exams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.